could barely hear that. Okay, I'd like to call to order our Wednesday, May 22nd, 5:30 PM workshop. Before everybody knows, all five counselors are here, city manager's here, city recorder's here, assistant city manager's here, other people are here. Thank you for coming. Little reminder, if your cell phone is on, please turn it off or silence it. If you're near a microphone, please move your electronics away as far as you can, just in case we get any interference. The first item on the agenda is the Deschutes County Sheriff Office update. Lieutenant Davis, he's not in the room, so we'll move on to our second item, which is Cascades East Transit. He's online. Eric, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Thanks for having me, Mayor and councilors. I'll start the screen sharing here in just a moment, and got a quick transit update for you guys. Feel free to talk through it, ask any questions. I can talk on this stuff all day. So,
okay, we can hear you just fine as well. So, whenever you're.
Okay. Oh, my name is Eric Lunt. I am the Strategy and Program Manager for Cascades East Transit. I'm afraid our director, Andrea Bro, wasn't able to make it tonight, but I'm happy to share with you guys an update on transit services. First off, we'll go through a quick overview of what we do in the Central Oregon region. So, of course, Sisters is one of the important cities for us, but we cover from Warm Springs down to Lapine. That's 70 linear miles. It's a rather large area. We have rural and urban and a whole mix of things in between. So looking at the service offerings that we have, one that I want to highlight is the Van Pool program that came out of pilot this past year. It's a program that we started during the pandemic years and treated that as a pilot project through those years. Last year, it found its footing, and we are now up to about 40 vehicles. We're the fastest growing program in the state, or actually on the entire West Coast, I've been told. But this is a way for people to share their commute. Van pools are just like car pools, but we provide the van, we pay for the gas, and we do all the maintenance for you. So all it takes to participate in that is having at least 4 riders. The vehicle stays at your home or a safe location nearby. And we have folks driving from between Bend and Sisters to commute to work. We have crews going from Bend down to Chemult with the Forest Service. The picture here is a crew that goes to the Three Rivers Elementary School in Sun River. We did a nice piece with them on KTVZ highlighting the service. Other programs are the Veterans Healthcare Transport Service that we have. This is one that started with the State Department of Veterans Affairs funding it. And it's been in a precarious shape funding-wise recently, but Andrea has been able to secure additional funding to keep this program going. This is kind of a special program. It doesn't have a normal dedicated funding stream. So it's one that we work to keep going. And that's for rural veterans to access healthcare services, whether that's going from Metolius to St. Charles and Bend, Sisters to your pharmacy or MRI in town. We have quite a few folks taking advantage of that. Then, more central to Sisters, we have the Rural Dial-A-Ride and Community Connectors, along with ADA Paratransit. So, Community Connectors, of course, Sisters has connections to Bend and Redmond with routes 28 and 29. And we also have the Dial-A-Ride and the Sisters Shopper Shuttle. The Community Connectors are one service that is picking up faster than most in terms of ridership, getting back to pre-pandemic levels. We're seeing a lot of folks that take advantage of that to get between towns, whether that's for shopping or work or whatever the case may be. But we're encouraged by the use of those services. I'm afraid the Sisters Shopper Shuttle, however, is one that's a little more sparsely used. So I'd like to talk to the counselors and city staff if anyone has ideas on how we might enhance these services, anything that you would like to see in particular. We are responsive to your needs.
Well, Eric, would it help if we had a dedicated transportation hub on the west side of town?
I think that would help. Yeah. We're looking forward to the portal opening too. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And this is Counselor Lutz, with the shopper shuttle. I know the intention of it, but I always felt like there was a huge opportunity for it to run in reverse, bring people here to shop.
Yeah.
Maybe more recreationally than for, provisions and sundries.
Good idea. Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, they could, I don't know exactly what the timing is, of that, but I just felt like, yeah, great opportunity to make sure there's people riding both directions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's great feedback and something we can look forward to.
I
I'll
have a,
touch on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
this is Susan, Counselor Cobb. I have a suggestion too, if it's not already in place. And you said there's Route 28 and 29, relative to Sisters to Bend, Sisters to Redmond. Is there a possibility of having a loop transit that goes Sisters Bend, Redmond, on a regular kind of basis?
That's a good idea. We do try to align, it's called the pulses, when the buses all arrive at the transit hub in Hawthorne Station, for example. So when the Sisters bus gets into Bend, you can hop on that to go to Redmond and so on. But one thing I'll touch on in a sec here with another slide is that we're increasing some of the frequencies on those community connectors. So it'll make the service that much more predictable. You don't have to wait a few hours till the next bus comes. And things that we can look at forward to in the future too. We have a 2040 transit master plan, similar to most of our cities and jurisdictions have their transportation system plans. Some of the ideas outlined in that would involve using the community connectors to circulate through Redmond or to circulate through Sisters, I'm sorry, and try to pick up more locations and increase service in these areas too.
Thanks for that, Eric. And this is the mayor again, and I want to build on on Councilor Lett's idea about the shopper shuttle reversing. We have a new Sisters Business Administration in town, or SBA, and they might be interested in attracting, shoppers to come into the retail spaces. You never know, the art community might want to try and bring in people, especially on like a Fourth Friday art walk or other special events. And I suppose the chamber might help too, if you can get a hold of them.
Yeah, no, these are great ideas. I appreciate that. And we'll definitely reach out to the new SBA and see if we can work together on some communications and get attention on this concept. I think that has legs.
Eric, this is Councilor Blum, and on that same idea, when there are major events in Sisters, it would be nice if there was the ability to have a bus to get people here, as opposed to having everybody to ride to the rodeo grounds and everybody, that kind of thing. So that would be helpful. And the question I get asked the most about bus service is there any way for it to help people get to the airport?
Yeah.
I mean, does it connect to a bus that goes by the airport?
That's actually one of my upcoming slides. We have a new service coming to Redmond. Yeah.
Just be quiet and you'll get to it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the feedback. Sometimes I ask for it and don't get much. I really appreciate all of your feedback, and we'll take this into consideration. So I'll go ahead and move on. Just quickly looking at our staff, Cascades East Transit is operated by COIC. And as you guys are probably familiar, COIC has a rather large portfolio of services, from economic development to houselessness and much more. We are technically their transportation department and work with the counties and cities and tribes across the region. We do that with a very lean team, though. So this is a rundown of the numbers here. Of course, the bulk are drivers. We've got one more mechanic position filled to help with technical issues as we get a lot more electronics on board these buses. But the administrative staff, when we talk about planning new services, we only have 3 folks right now. I'm trying to expand that, but right now we are a very lean team. So we always appreciate being able to have good working relationships with local partners in the cities and the counties. And we found that really helps us work as a force multiplier to get a lot more done cooperatively. And looking at funding, this is something that's seen some changes in the past few years as the state legislature changed the programs that fund us. STIF is now the primary funding source for us. STIF is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund, which is funded primarily through payroll tax. That's allocated from the state, from ODOT, based on population for different areas. Some of the other funding sources, we got a lot of federal funding, and because we are not a transit district, as most other agencies are in the state, we don't have a dedicated funding source. We don't have a tax base or even revenues right now because we're fare free. But we do operate on a lot of grants, especially for capital projects like mobility hubs, and we're rebuilding Hawthorne Station to be more safe and friendly. But the meat and potatoes come from these federal programs, 5310, 5311, 5307. They each have their special focus, whether that's the dial-a-ride systems or rural service. And then STIF, as you can see from the charts here, that pays for most of the gas, most of the maintenance, and most of everything we do. I think it's approaching 60% of all of our funding now. And I should mention too that STIF is something that is passed through the local jurisdictions. So we currently, because we're not a transit district, ODOT allocates the funding to Deschutes County, Crook County, and so on. So we are working with local jurisdictions on all this. And STIF does go to additional transit providers in the region, not just us. And quickly, the service area is, as mentioned, we have a very large territory for an operator of our size, from Warm Springs to Lapine, Sisters to Prineville, and fixed route in Bend. And we've got a rundown of the numbers for van pools, and I think that's already out of date because we keep getting more. Quick roundup of service changes. We have a few that I want to highlight for Sisters here. Starting June 3rd, that's when our union contracts take effect. So that's when we get to implement new changes to our system. We have a few big ones coming this year. The community connectors we're excited about, as mentioned. For Sisters, we're adding extra runs during the middle of the day, as you can see with the existing schedule for our Sisters to Bend service. It's pretty much a commuter service right now. We start early in the morning, have an afternoon run, and then one later run. So 3 round trips between Sisters and Bend, 3 round trips between Sisters and Redmond. On each of those routes, we're going to be adding an additional loop in the middle of the day. So that makes it a little bit easier if you're going to shop or whatever the case may be. Now you might be looking at this slide and why am I talking about Northwest Crossing with folks and sisters? But I want to highlight this one because this shows that we can be quick and responsive to feedback. This is something that, we have smoke season in Bend now. We also have detour season down here. All the construction keeps throwing our buses off track. And when that happened with the bus that goes to COCC here, we started getting feedback saying, can you please keep it this way on the detour? Because we were cutting through Northwest Crossing and some of the restaurant workers, well, they've been taking that bus, but they had to walk a half mile from the nearest bus stop to get to the restaurants that they work in. So when we started running a detour right in front of the place, they asked if we could make that permanent, and it was something that we could quickly implement. And we started hearing a lot more feedback from others saying that that was a good idea. It's mostly those restaurant workers there. So we do appreciate your feedback, and if you have members of the community too, send them our way. And as always, the fun stuff is coming back too. So yeah, go ahead.
This is Gary Ross, Council. Recreational service launch dates. I know you run buses up and down the Lava Butte and the transit to trails and ride the river. Those are relatively frequent turns. They go up and come back and go up, go back, do they not?
Yeah.
Well, there's a side of me that, back to the discussion about the shopper shuttle moving shoppers this way rather than the other way. For a lot of our mountain bike friends, this is a prime destination. And if you come by the park, Village Green Park, on any given day in the summer, it's loaded with cars with bike racks on the back, sometimes to the degree that they're spilling into other parts of the neighborhood. And I regularly see folks coming from Bend fly by my house and miss the turn and have to back up. Anyway, I'm wondering if there's a chance to do something like that also, maybe a couple of buses in the morning and then pick up in the evening to bring riders from the Bend area out to here rather than the opposite way around. Something to think about.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that will be really attractive once we get that eastern portal opened. Something where we can have facilities to support folks coming that long way. I will point out too, the recreational services here, as we are fare free, these are the only programs that we actually charge money for right now.
Yeah.
The Lava Butte shuttles, for example, more than pays for itself, which in transit is rare. Often what we call fare box recovery is 12 to 20%. The ticket sales pay for the service. These ones more than pay for themselves. But I think that's a good idea that we can explore in the future. I think there's demand there.
Yeah, I can add to that too. I think a couple of bike shops might want to be involved because they do a lot of touring and stuff like that, and make groups of people and lead them up the trail and take them on, tours. So
Yeah.
there might be a lot there for you.
The Transit to Trails one too, I'll point out, we started that last summer for the first time ever. That was supported by a federal grant to access the federal lands out there. We only had a normal bike rack on this thing, so we could take, I think, 8 bikes total if you bring some on board. And people were not using this because they were afraid that the bike racks would be full and they wouldn't have a space to use it. So we went and bought a big trailer that can haul 20 plus bikes now. So we're gonna have a lot more service to this area, and that's something that we can explore in other areas too, like Mackenzie.
All right. Is that there you go. Keep going.
And last one here, just highlighting, this is our big project for the year, the Redmond Flex Routes. This is something that Redmond's transportation system plan called for in 2009, was to bring actual bus service to Redmond. We are starting with what's called flex routes, where you have that buffer around the route and you can call ahead or ask to be dropped off within a quarter mile of that route. So similar to Dial-A-Ride concept, it's a way that we can transition into more regular service with fixed stops, fixed schedules, and predictable service. What I want to highlight for you guys is that we are making these align with the bus from Sisters so that, again, you can transfer at the Redmond hub there, come in from Sisters or, go from your home in Redmond, hop on the bus to Sisters. We'll make these line up so that we can make that easy. That's something that we'll consider in the future. But this, the red line here, that one's going to have regular service to the airport. So this is us building in the direction of having better service to the airport. It's not quite the shuttle service that everyone wants just yet, but we are getting in that direction. And that's all I have for you.
On that last picture or slide?
Yeah.
Where is the hub in Redmond?
It's right in the middle of those two. It's behind Fred Meyer's.
Okay.
All right.
Just one last comment, Eric, on behalf of staff, that I know a few of our staff members try to take the bus a few times a week for commuting purposes, is that there's not a lot of options in the morning or afternoons. There's just one. So if you miss it, you're kind of, you're out of luck. And I think the pickup in both Redmond and Bend are pretty early. So just as we grow and as Bend and Redmond grow too, and our workforce grows out here, something that I think we'd be interested in looking at with you guys is just more options for those, peak commute hours at between 7 and 8, and then 4 and 5 and 6 at night, to and from the different cities.
That's good to hear. Thank you. And part of what's taken so long getting back to this is our staffing levels. We're finally getting staffed up better. That's why we're able to add in those midday runs. But we do want to continue improving this frequency, especially at peak hours.
And of course, the city could, if there's enough people, get a van pool going too.
Yes.
That's always an option.
Yep.
All right.
I have a question and I ask every year. So what is the feeling at CET and COIC about creating a district so we can finally be a grown-up transportation system?
That's actually written into our IGA with the city of Bend when they handed over the old BAT system from Bend to COIC. That was part of the deal, is that we needed to look for how to establish a sustainable service in the future. And part of that is going to be a transit district or something more structured than what we currently are. COIC's done a great job of keeping things afloat, but this is a growing region and we've got growing demands, and we really want to be able to meet those demands. So we are exploring that. We're actually going to an RFP this summer for consulting services to help us with a capital plan and other technical questions. Part of it is going to be looking at the funding that we have and how to build a roadmap towards that sustainable future for us.
Okay, sounds good.
That's better than nothing. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate you coming today and giving us an update. I know you work with staff probably more than you work with us as a council, but we appreciate you doing that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right. See you later. Thank you. All right. Lieutenant Davis isn't here, so we'll go on to item number 3, Republic Services Financial Update and Rate Request. City Manager Wheeler, you gonna head that up?
Sure, I'll go ahead and, come on up, guys. I'll let them give introductions, and you see the slides in your packet this evening. But on an annual basis, our franchised garbage recycling hauler comes for rate adjustments to keep pace with tipping fees, disposal costs, wages and things like that. And built into our franchises are the obligation for councils to consider these requests and ask questions and kind of dive into the numbers if you would like, to kind of ask about the justification for rate increases. And so we see them a couple times a year. We had, I think, a a mid-year report, 4 or 5 months ago, with Courtney and Erica, right? We're happy to have them tonight to kind of give you an update, chance for you guys to ask questions of your franchise hauler. And I'll just also mention that we have been working with them on conversations around the recycling center, and other curbside services. It's a council goal, to look at that. I know it's been talked about before, the recycling center and kind of the future of that as we look at the Recycling Modernization Act that the state is implementing. So we're going to continue to work with the hauler and also the county on exploring the options there, as well as the curbside services for our community. So turn it over to them for the presentation.
You have to hold the button just for, yeah, there you go. All right, your mic's on.
All right, good evening, counselors, mayor. Oh, good evening, counselors, mayor. I am Wes Davis, I'm the interim general manager for Republic Services in Central Oregon. I'm joined by Colin Team, who's one of our ops supervisors that oversees the operations here in Sisters. Colin, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks for having us. My name is Colin Team, Operations Supervisor, Republic Services. So my primary responsibility is making sure your drivers get your trash picked up and providing great service that the community expects.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Yeah, it's Team, T's and Tom, E-E-M,
Okay,
like a baseball team, but 2 E's.
okay, thank you. Just like to get it right.
So we are before you tonight to ask for a 1.5% rate increase. We're seeking approval on that. We also want to discuss the $20 rate for carryout service. But before we get into that, I want to also cover a quick update on some of the other exciting things we have happening. Our office in Redmond is reopening for the public to be used very shortly. We made an offer today, actually, so hopefully we get that hired very shortly. We've also hired a new operations manager that would oversee this is the Sisters. Ron Shearer, our old ops manager, just recently retired, and we split that position into 2 so that you guys will have more attention going forward. Additionally, the new Sisters website is online, Republic Services/Sisters or OR as in Oregon. And then we're of course working with staff to evaluate the recycling options and the possibility of curbside out here in Sisters. The website is republicservices.com/sistersor. And that is operational now. Okay, moving on then. Do you guys have all the slides up? I was not able to share my screen.
Share it now. Log into.
I'm logged in. Let me try to share again. I don't think I have permission. The share button is grayed out. Oh, maybe I could do that. All right, that'll do it.
Bam. Good job.
We figured that part out. All right, so 2023 financial results. Looking backwards, we see that revenue increased by about 12%. Well, exactly 12%, 137,000. That's on the collection side. That's us coming to your door and or curbside and picking up the disposal. On the expenses, we grew by about the same amount, 11.3% or $111,000. The bulk of that came from wages, payroll, and benefits. At the end of 2023, we implemented a market rate adjustment for a lot of our drivers, or for all of our drivers rather. And then in the beginning of March, we also give them a merit increase based on performance. So we see labor increasing, which is not unheard of throughout most of the industry at this point. And I think, but we also bought a couple new trucks. These are replacement trucks for an aging fleet. And so a portion of that depreciation is allocated to the Sisters contract. Disposal costs also increased by $14,000 or 5.8%. That's related to both volume growth and the increased tip fee or gate rate that the county has implemented. Franchise fees, as with revenue increasing, franchise fees will naturally also increase. And then management fees, this is supports to legal, IT, everything that comes with running a business, all the background administrative stuff also increased by 18%, which left us with a net income of $175,000 and a margin of 13.74%. Looking forward into 2024, when we're forecasting, and this includes the 1.5% rate increase, if we include that, then we would expect the increase to be to increase revenue by 9.2%, which includes a 2% volume growth factor in there. And then expenses would increase by 13.5%. Oh,
Thank you. Now it's making more sense.
yeah,
There you go.
that wouldn't have made any sense. So this is, again, I'll just start at the beginning on this slide.
Sure.
So this includes the 1.5% requested rate increase. Revenue is increasing by 1.5%, or revenue with the 1.5% increase overall increases by 9.2%, and that includes the 2% volume growth factor that we factored in. Operating expenses increased by 13.5%, so 148,000 expenses are increasing faster than revenue here for 2024 in our forecast. The way we forecasted this is we applied the consumer pricing index for water, sewer, trash, which is a 5.55% rate, applied to some of our largely all our expenses, with the exception of some of these line items we listed here. The big ones being labor and disposal. You can see those are much bigger numbers than the 5.55%. Those are related to the market rate adjustment that we gave to our drivers so that we could stay competitive in the market and continue to stay staffed, as well as the merit increase on the labor side. And then the disposal side is, again, the county implementing these gate rates. They're going from $70 a ton to $80 a ton. And so that's the bulk of our expense increase that we're forecasting for 2024. Obviously, as revenue increases, franchise fees would also increase. And then we expect to replace some of our aging fleet with new trucks, and a portion of that depreciation will be allocated to Sisters as well. That's the bulk of it, and that's how we got to 2024 forecasting, and that's why we're asking for the 1.5% to arrive at a final margin of 10.29% is our forecast. So we just have 2023 and 2024 profit and loss statements next to each other here. The 2023 is the actual, and the 2024 is the projected with the 1.5% rate increase. I'll give you a moment to start to digest that, and we can come back and reference it if you have questions.
So can you expand on that?
Is it just too small? So as a rate table sample here, then with that 1.5% rate increase, the effect that it has is based on the size of the cart, the trash cart that the customer would have. So a 35-gallon trash cart, for example, would go up 30 cents, whereas a 95-gallon cart would go up to just over 60 cents. Lastly, we want to talk about carryout drive-up service that we provide. Right now, Republic Services is seeking an additional flat rate for residential up the drive and carryout services. These are basically concierge services where a customer has requested that we come up into their property, grab the cart, and pull it to our truck so that we can tip it, and then we walk it back up there. Right now, we charge, it depends on the size of the cart, but between $2.76 or $3.80. It obviously costs us quite a bit more than that rate to provide these services. So what we end up seeing is there is a fairness and equity issue that we want to address by increasing the rate so it would commensurate with exactly what the costs we incur are. The way it currently works, all the other customers you have, or we have out here, are actually subsidizing these customers with the concierge service because that cost is then passed on to the general rate payer. So we believe that $20 per month, unless the customer has a disability that impacts their ability to move the cart, is a fair rate. So that we can do that. If a customer does have some sort of disability, we won't charge for that. And then we would propose initiating this as an opt-in optional service. That flat rate would cover the customer's carts on their property. And then we would basically notify them leading up to implementation that this is a new program that they need to opt in. We would automatically disenroll all existing customers so that they are very aware that they're opting in for this increase to $20. And then we can apply the new charge once we start that service proposed on September 1st.
So question.
Yeah.
How many folks in your service area for Sisters make use of this particular amenity?
Sisters has 82 customers that use this carry-out concierge service.
And is that within Sister City or is that within Sisters Country?
That's within Sister City.
Okay. And I think it probably answers my question. Is this that's something you're looking to do in other
Yes,
service areas, not just Sisters? So this would be the same for Redmond or Bend or other places that you're servicing?
correct. We're rolling this out across all of our service areas, and as far as I know, our competitors are doing something similar. So this proposal's gone through Deschutes County, Bend, Redmond. It's going through everybody because we all see it as an issue that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
And we believe this is the best way to do it.
I have two questions. My first one is to make sure I understand correctly. So if the $20 fee is charged to these particular individuals, then the rest of us are not aiding with our piece of it that's currently going on.
Correct.
Okay, that's question number one. All right, my second question is, when you say disabled, I mean, what if somebody's just old?
Yeah, so what we would rely on is that a customer calls in, says for whatever reason, they're not physically able to do it, and we will take them at their word that they're not able to do it.
Okay. And so is there some reasoning why you just can't bump up the shared charge instead of charging these people specifically an additional amount?
So right now, the cost for this service is passed on to the larger group.
Right?
And what we're seeing is that people that simply can afford it or decide that $2.87 is worth not having to set their carts out are taking advantage of the program. And we believe that that's not the correct best approach to take care of our people, our drivers, the customers in the community, to pass those costs on to you guys or to the larger community.
Okay, so you're basically saying that able-bodied people are quote unquote lazy.
They're not paying their fair share.
I'm
but-
saying
They're not
that
doing
we
their fair
opted
share, they're
into a
being lazy about
concierge
it, yeah.
Service because we're
If
probably.
they want to be lazy, they have to pay more.
Well, I mean, it's,
So-
there are people who like to have the garbage picked up their house and they don't have to deal with it and that kind of thing. I see that.
Yeah,
And I really do see there's an equity issue here. When you say two something a month, is that a month or a service visit?
That is per month. So for a 35-gallon cart, it's $2.
Yeah, I'm wondering why I didn't.
I'm wondering why I wasn't taking advantage of this myself.
Before we're outed, so.
I mean, another solution would be just to increase the amount that everybody's doing.
Well, then why should we pay so that somebody else
Oh,
doesn't have?
because some of the people are truly disabled and
Well,
not
that's-
able.
That, then they get it for free.
And
If
then
they
we-
should.
No,
we-
but they're paying too. They're also paying the $2 and some odd cents.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Right now, they're
Yeah.
paying the $2.76 under
Right.
this new program. There would be the regular flat rate or the regular.
They
rate
wouldn't
that
be paying
everybody
anything.
pays Because they've reported
Extra.
to us that.
Extra.
Yeah.
Only people who are able to do it and request it would be paying the $20.
I understand that.
But you think we ought to pay for people who are able who request it?
I think the way it is, it just needs an increase
That's
rather
what they're doing
than,
at $20.
no. what they're doing is stopping the payment of the $2 and whatever, and charging only the people that ask for this service $20 a month,
That's.
which I don't agree with, because we're talking about people that are, primarily disabled.
That's
No,
whatever
if they're
reason.
disabled, they're not paying it.
They are paying the same amount you and I are paying right now.
paying a regular, that's just regular trash service for getting extra service. I think that that's fair.
They're not paying any extra to have them come and get their garbage cans.
We're all paying a little extra for that. He just said $2 and some odd cents.
No.
No,
Those
you're-
people that have opted into this program currently, if I was having my trash can moved out from my house, I could get it done for $3 a month.
Okay,
And that would be on my bill that would show up every month. So instead of my $20.07 for my service, because I have the small can, I'd be paying $23.07. And that's a hell of a deal. And,
It's only 82 people that are
and
paying
I,
that, right?
I think what I'm
Correct.
hearing here is that, that sort of a thing should go away, because most of the customers are not taking advantage of the service. And if you need the service, if you have a physical disability or whatever, then they're gonna offer that service at no upcharge. But if I want it done at my house, I'm gonna pop another $20 a month on top of my bill. Am I accurate in saying that?
That's 100% correct.
Thank you.
So the 82 people that are currently, or the households that are on this concierge service, are they concentrated in certain areas at a part of town that have long driveways or hard to access a place to put their cans? I've seen that before where there might be a reason why more people have opted into it, just the practicality of putting 3 bins at the curb, that sort of thing. And, that leads me to the next question, making sure that you have pretty robust communication around this, phone, text, letters, so people are aware of that. They're, they'll be surprised when the garbage isn't picked up when it's sitting by their garage instead of at the curb.
Yeah, so the plan to contact customers is both through existing phone, email records, and then we're gonna tag their carts as well. So there's a very good chance that they would see it when we put it back at their place with several months' notice, assuming this is approved.
I would also assume that STRs probably take advantage of this because they don't have people on site, some of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Short-term
that would be a great service to have for short-term rental, because you're not having someone drive over and put them out themselves.
And then to answer your
Yeah.
other piece of the question, in Sisters specifically, no, we don't necessarily see it clustered for these 82 customers we're talking about. In other parts of the Central Oregon region, there definitely are entire HOAs that are signed up for this type of service, and but that's not what we're seeing here.
And I think the other question you asked, Jordan, that I'm kind of interested in is people with real long driveways or no ability really to place you almost have to put the can in the driveway, which is what I have to do with my can in Newport for the home when we're over there. So is that the case, or do you have any information on why those folks are taking advantage of that service other than convenience?
For the most part, we believe it's convenience, which is why we are taking this step to try to address it, or proposing this step to address it. If there are, again, one-off scenarios where somebody's not able, we won't charge. If there's a actual limitation on like the landscaping of the facility, right? That's another consideration we can apply here.
I think that's something I would kind of want to see would be some sort of a ability to assess whether or not a property has the capability of having a can out at the street. I can't think of too many places in Sisters where you can't, to be quite honest with you. But I think when you're talking about Deschutes in the county and some of the other areas you're talking about, there could be some more rural places where the end of the driveway is a ditch on the side and
Yeah.
the pavement's right there. So where are you going to put the can if it's not in the traffic lane?
I'll also add that it's customary then when a new customer would sign up for this type of service, that an ops supervisor like Colin would
Yep.
go out and assess the site, make sure that we can
Perfect.
safely service it, and then make an approval or
And,
disapproval.
and
decision.
what reaction are you getting from the other entities that you've been speaking to, the other jurisdictions?
They're very supportive. They see that this is an issue that's kind of grown out of hand. It might have worked 20 years ago or so, but as the greater Central Oregon has kind of grown, people have second homes here and HOAs are popping up. The program's not being used the way it was designed to be used at this point. So that's why we're trying to address it, and they're generally on board with that. Bend has already approved as far as I know.
Thank you.
And that concludes our presentation on the 1.5% rate increase request and the carryout service. Any other questions for us?
All right.
Yeah, I think the practice here, timeline wise, this is the workshop, ask questions, you get the presentation, then ultimately comes back to council and the council meeting for resolution approving an increase in the change to the fee schedule.
That's separately.
That'd either be June 12th or 22nd, whenever it's 2 weeks after that.
When would
26,
those,
sorry.
when would the changes take effect?
The regular rate adjustment or the 1.5% would have effect July 1. Right now, we're thinking the carryout would take place September 1, but that is pending continued discussion.
Can you please go to the rate increase page number 5 there? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that one. 30 cents, 41 cents, 56 cents.
Do you actually know the numbers on the customers that are at the 35 gallon versus 65?
Like how many are in each
Yeah,
category? I didn't know that off the top of my head, but I can get you that information.
Um,
And just for clarity, when when your trucks are full, are they hauling all the way to not to dump, or do you go to transfer stations?
We almost always go to transfer stations.
Okay.
No, the northwest one, right?
Yeah, so here in Sisters, because they'll have to make several dumps per day.
Yeah.
They'll go to Northwest, dump there, come back out. When they fill up, usually the end of the route, then they'll dump in Redmond at Negus Transfer Station.
Have you been out at the Negus transfer station?
I have, it's
Is it
beautiful.
super?
It is great.
It won't be that clean for very long.
I was actually with the first truck and first driver emptying a load on their perfect brand new concrete, and I felt guilty about it.
know.
It's a beautiful facility.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. Well, where's it going? And then finally I saw what they were doing. It made sense, but at first it was sort of disconcerting.
Yeah.
do you guys keep like statistics on missed cans and stuff? I know we've had some conversations in the past with you guys, in years past and, you know, I'd love council to weigh in as well, and just kind of, you know, there's been just enough issues in the past with that and some of the call center issues. And how do you feel as a company that you guys are coming along on some of those improvements?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's one of our biggest priorities, as Colin well knows. I ask him about it regularly to make sure that we're staying focused on improving our service. A lot of companies, ourselves included, are still bouncing back from the staffing shortfalls that came with COVID and then the increasing prices specifically in Central Oregon here. So we think we got everything lined up where we need it to be. Now we're going through the process of actually keeping people, training them up to cover these routes. And to answer your initial question, yes, every call that goes into our call center is recorded. And when a missed pickup or some other service issue is reported, that gets reported to us so that we can dig into it, root cause it, understand what the issues were. Because sometimes it's not just a matter of not having the drivers or trucks available. There's other things that happen when you service as many customers as we do every day. And so we work through those and resolve the issues, whether that's getting maps for drivers so that they don't miss cul-de-sacs or because they're brand new and they don't know the area yet. Or whether that's just a lack of communication on our end internally. So we're working hard to address all those issues, and hopefully the data I look at shows that our service is improving for you guys. We're not satisfied where we're at yet.
Yeah.
Will the Redmond office be the place that locals can call if their can is missed, as opposed to the call center somewhere in the godforsaken parts of the United States?
So the call center will always be available, but customers are very welcome to come to Redmond and have.
So
them-
Redmond won't be taking calls.
We're not gonna be able to handle the call volume with just the one person at the front desk, but.
So I can bring my rolling cart along with me when I go in to report that it didn't get picked up
Yeah.
to Redmond. Yeah,
and we'll
because
take
I've been
care-
missed,
we'll take care
I'm
of
one of the
right
people who's
there.
been missed a couple of times. And I think what happens is I have a 35 gallon. Sometimes when you have a new driver, if it's tucked behind the recycling container, they don't see it when they go by, especially in the winter, because
Yeah.
you guys hit me at about 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. One of
So-
our first stops.
Yes, I think I am your first stop, actually.
So a moment ago, you mentioned that you will go out and make sure that a new customer is, that the access works and to provide the service. So for what reasons would you not provide service?
Really only if it's hazardous to our driver to go and cross whatever landscaping they might have. If we have to pick up like 90-gallon garden over a wall or something, like it doesn't work. It's pretty rare that I think we end up denying service for those things, but we do have to validate it in order to protect our employees.
Sure, thank you.
would most likely be probably in a rural setting.
Yes.
Don't forget your mic. Jennifer, you got something?
Just the 1.5% increase, this is, I'm assuming you're just kind of feeling this is for the starting July 1, or I don't know if that's your fiscal year, but that we'll probably see you again in 12 months.
Correct, yes. I mean, I think we owe it to the city to come out every 12 months at least and have these conversations to give you an update on our financials. So this would take effect July 1 and then we'd revisit next.
I'm gonna really want an update on the concierge service and the $20 and see how that goes. And,
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned that, that basically the whole group, all of your customers have been kind of, subsidizing that service at the $2 and $3 levels or whatever they are, depending on the size of the can. It'll be really interesting to find out how many of the 82 take advantage of that and pay the extra money. It would be nice to know how many end up trying to claim an exemption from that fee, and we're okay with that. I don't think that anybody has any issues with equity issues at all. But it would be nice to know that if this actually works, if we can see if that actually might bring costs down a little bit for the main group. I know it's not that many, but it would be interesting to see if there's a new line item in your budget or saying, hey,
Yeah.
because this many people took advantage of it and it costs us this much to do that service, that it actually saves everybody else. I mean, I know it's only going to be a fraction if it's 82 out of, 2,000 accounts or whatever you have. But it's nice to see that. And honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised you have a new website. That's a good thing. One of my, I was gonna, throw up a little criticism on the old website, so I'm glad you got something new. And it was also nice to hear that, you've taken an operation manager's position if somebody is retired and you've split it into 2 jobs because you just think that the 2 areas need that management. And that is also refreshing to hear. One other small criticism I have is we're a quiet little town. And when you guys start really early, everybody can hear it. I know you do the commercial stuff as early as the 5 o'clock hour, maybe even a little before 5 o'clock. And I can hear the trucks at my house through the wall, sitting in my living room at 5 a.m. And I live on the city limit line. And I was wondering if there's a way, and I'm not saying we have to solve this today, but I'd really like to see you guys as our waste management people to try and find a way to bring those trucks into town, especially in the commercial core where they're clanging around and making a lot of noise and everybody can hear it. If we can find a way that our noise ordinance is at least somewhat adhered to, because I know 5 o'clock in the morning is early for a lot of people. So, and I've had that criticism in the past. This is not anything new, and I've had people get on me about it, especially hotel owners who have rooms downtown, and there's dumpsters right next to the hotel. And so, and I know you've talked to those people too, so
Yes,
as a company. So I want us to just think about that. I mean,
Can't you just make those trucks quieter? I mean, just,
Well-
I mean, there's, is there anything in that area advancing about making
So it
trucks
depends on what's
quieter?
causing the noise, like
Yeah.
electric trucks, which our company is leading the way with, are certainly quieter as they drive around. They probably won't be a lot quieter as they actually service containers, like the steel containers down.
yeah. And I know they make recycled containers and they're a little bit quieter, but they're really not,
The poly containers.
yeah,
aren't-
but they're more expensive
They are more expensive.
and they're fire hazard in a big fire situation. So,
There's trade-offs.
I have a couple of questions.
yeah, go ahead.
When you're done. First of all, the website you said was republicservices.com/sisters.
Sisters OR.
No, Dot or OR?
No, just OR.
Well, neither one's working. I've tried it ever since you said it.
Okay.
I get a wonderful picture of a garbage truck saying page not found.
No.
Sisters OR. I
Just
I
OR.
tried that. I tried it with a dot and so just a
I'll owe
little,
you a follow-up on that.
yeah, just a little
Make
aside.
sure it actually goes live.
Yeah, and I lost the other thing, so there you go. Oh, you folks send out at the beginning of the year a very nice chart of what days of service. You sent us the Redmond one, which is not the same as the Sisters one. Because I know, because we put the carts out according to what was on and the only thing I picked up was the garbage and we had a big full bin of recycling that didn't go. So could you please send out the Sisters one in
The
your next
actual
mailing?
one, yes.
We'd
We can
appreciate
get
it.
that corrected too.
I never got any.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I get-
Yeah, and make sure that's on the website. I mean, I think that that's kind of common sense, right? Just have the schedule, the whole year schedule for 2023 or 2024. Let's even get the year right.
Especially on the website, have the special pickup days. Cause I get, when I have tried to verify it by calling, the people go, well, I don't have anything here special for sisters. So the call centers evidently don't have the special kind of pickup days that we have in the spring and the fall and whatnot. And so if I can't find my nugget and I try and call and find, so I'm wanting that on the website.
Okay, we can make that happen too.
Yeah, that would be very helpful because that's what I get asked a lot.
If it went live today, it's possible you folks just have to reboot the server because sometimes it goes live internally and doesn't come out. I'm an about tech guy, so
All right.
where's the guy?
I-
to check new
I
website?
appreciate that.
All right, any other questions or
I-
comments?
yeah.
or-
I just had one question. If, you changed the, carryout service, $20, obviously none of us knew about it. And so the community will now learn about it. And will that upcharge, be sufficient enough in case it gets really popular? Let's see, there's way more people who want to
Now that
pay
people
the
know,
extra dollar.
it could be a moneymaker.
know.
The short answer is yes. We did time studies with the existing customers to understand how long it took our drivers to do this. And then we incorporated the additional risk and safety hazards that come into that and just basically built on that rate off of that time study. So we believe it would be sufficient to cover the costs.
Yeah, I'd like to note that they didn't tell us anything about it until they already had the rate ready to go. But
Well,
I get it. I don't
yeah.
understand.
Well, I appreciate, we've had a few conversations with Republic, over the last year that have been interesting and,
A kind word.
and, I am really, thankful that the organization clearly is trying to drill down and get really creative about some, solutions here that seem to be hopefully win-win. So I
I'm-
really appreciate that.
I'm going to say surprised, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, surprised, and that's a good surprise. So let's just call it that, what it is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, Joe, you got 1 minute.
Yeah.
All right.
Money in,
Thank
money
you
out.
so much. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quarterly financial review. Might as well. Yeah, let's just We'll get her done.
Just, hopefully this isn't too
An hour
shocking to
later.
us since we just had a budget meeting.
Yeah, we just-
Hours of this last week, so.
Let's see, what would be quickest? You want to pull up the packet or is it be easier if I just join in?
Money in, money out.
Yeah, this won't take too long.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to blow through it
No, no, it's okay. Thanks for
irresponsibly or
checking.
anything, you know, so,
Yeah, we don't have anybody waiting in the audience.
Right.
well, we have the mains here. I know them.
Okay. So fun stuff. So I'll go through the two revenue and expenditure summaries as typically do. This will be for quarter 3, so ending March 31st. As I stated in the notes here, as you can see at the top line, do I have my snazzy laser
All
pointer?
right.
Property taxes have exceeded annual budgetary expectations. We kind of saw that as the rates came out in October. So no surprises there. Franchise user fee income, that's a little bit higher than expected, largely due to the campground. Now remember, at the end of the year, we kind of have to do an adjustment for the campground fees that are in July and August and September. So you'll actually see a little bit of a shift there. So it's kind of an artificial inflation, if you will, of the campground. And so that's the main reason why franchise fees are doing well in the street fund. So that also contributes to that lapse rate being quite high. Oh, you're fine. Oh, thank you. Okay, so miscellaneous and other income. The large drivers of that are the kind of the URA transfer of the 500,000. That's kind of a miscellaneous income item. It's kind of a payback for the general fund. That in addition to interest are the kind of the two drivers there. So that's what is kind of pushing that up to about 80% of our lapse rate right here. Local gas tax, like I spoke about in the second quarter, you're going to see that lapse a little bit and go down. It's at 70%. But we expect it to get closer to the 100% as the year concludes, fiscal year concludes. And we're obviously projecting that to be a little bit lower than our budget was, just as we discussed in the budget meetings. Again, SDC revenue, no surprise there. Development is kind of slowing down quite a bit. So you're at 58% there. Have seen a little bit of activity as of late, but nothing too material to affect that total budgetary amount there for the total year. And then water receipts. Water receipts are actually doing a little bit better than expected this time of year. Yeah, usually we see that kind of below 75% just because of the lack of water use in that in the second quarter, or excuse me, in the third quarter. But just with the amount of new accounts we've had over the years, it's kind of buoyed that number up. So that's at a healthy 81%. And then sewer is tracking just as expected, 76%, no real surprises there. Transit room taxes are also a little bit higher. And when we were digging into the numbers there, we actually received Airbnb income about double what we usually do at this time of year, which is interesting. And without the backup data for that, we don't really know why. We do have people that kind of, they remit their lodging tax and then they say Airbnb is submitting on our behalf. You add those up and it typically doesn't add up to the total, if that makes sense. So kind of a head scratcher there. We're going to kind of look into that. Julie and I actually talked about that just yesterday. And then shared revenue and grants is tracking as expected. That's the last line item right there. So that is everything really on the revenue end. All good stuff. The revenue is up above 75% and the expenses, as you'll see, are for the most part below. So if you want to go to the next page, that'd be great. Thanks for backup. Okay, so the big issues here, cap outlay is obviously very low. And as I stated in the comments, a lot of the capital projects are taking place in this last quarter of the fiscal year. Other projects, even I did the reconciliation today, we have $359,000 for the roundabout from ODOT. that isn't been taken out yet of our bank account. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as the year progresses, and it might be another one of those timing issues that we run into next year, but that's also contributing to the lack of kind of capital outlay expenses that we have. Debt service, that payment was actually made last week, 83,000. So that's at 100% now and will be for the fourth quarter. And then materials and personal services are tracking below expectations. Materials, we're right at about 75% for Water Street and Sewer. So Paul and I will keep a good eye on that as we get to the end of fiscal year if we need to make any budgetary adjustments there, but I think we should be fine. And then that is about it. So on those fronts as well.
I think anytime you're at the 3/4 mark and you're seeing, especially materials and services, sort of the things that many agencies have trouble controlling, that you're on that particular one, 54%, and it will get a little higher, but that's a sign of careful work on the part of staff to get the best price and to make sure that whatever they're buying, they need as opposed to want. And that there, like I said, I've seen a lot of these where that number at this time of year is close to 90%, and that never feels comfortable to an elected official, I suspect to a manager as well.
I would agree.
Not sure the manager agrees.
No,
No, and I apologize.
He
for
didn't
the
say
blue.
anything.
We just talked about this last week. We don't have that, use it or lose it mentality, and
Right.
yeah, and yeah, we have a tight team and they manage the budget pretty well. And yeah, as Joe said, this is similar to what we said last week. It's good news. We're pulling in more revenue. We're spending less. The personnel services, we talked about that. Some of that is the vacancies that we have, and kind of how we budget with the merits and things like that. But yeah, all good news.
Yeah. You're not buying a Maserati anytime soon, you?
No.
City Maserati?
No, thanks. That's the council
The
president's
band.
car of choice.
get the Maserati, yeah.
All right, anybody have any questions on any of that? You do a good job, Joe, so thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you do a really good job with budget. We just went through the budget process. You had a whole committee of people, you had the whole council, you had other people looking at it, and we didn't make one change. You're right. We didn't make one change. It is very, very weird, but in a good way. So thank you for that.
No, thanks. Yep. A lot of staff hours into that, and I was lucky enough to be able to put it together in a balance. So that's the
Yeah.
fun part.
And we got to honor Dave too, that
Of
was a good
course.
thing. That was a really, really, really good thing. So.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I think we're done.
Yep, that's the workshop.
All right, I'd like to call to order our May 22nd regular city council meeting. It's 6:45 PM. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Second one today, right, Doug? All right, next up is roll call.
Mayor Pruden,
I'm here.
Council President Blum,
Here.
Councilor Letts. Here. Councilor Ross,
Here and awake.
Councilor Cobb,
Present.
All right, next up is approval of the agenda. I could use a motion.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any visitor communication this evening? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? No? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Let's go. Let's get her done. Next up is resolution 2024-11, establishing no rates for. the city
Our,
of Mark.
our sheriff or
He said he might show up.
lieutenant.
Oh, here he is. We're just gonna throw him in.
Yeah.
You're here. Come on up.
Am I priced right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heard you were running a rideshare program?
Something like that.
Something like that. Details not necessary, but tell me later, okay?
Business is good. No.
It's good.
Yeah. We just completed our community academy. Counselor Letts, thank you for coming and joining us. We had a light crowd on Wednesday. We had about 20-ish on Thursday, so I thought it was really good, really engaging. Lots of good questions, and I think got to see our search and rescue team, lots of our criminal detectives, drug detectives, and our canine unit at the end. And then we had a special services or search and rescue got to put on a really good presentation. I got to learn a lot myself about some of the things they do. We also participated in the Kids Carnival through Sisters Park and Rec on Saturday. We were over there. They had kind of a big rig kind of display. So fire department, Blackbeat Ranch, several other agencies were there. I think Bonneville Power was there also, and just got to interact with, I think, about over 500 attendees that were there. So it was a really good event. And then coming up, we're getting ready for rodeo here in a couple of weeks. Just be kicking off event season, and we'll have a little bit of extra coverage there. Some deputies working overtime, and just our normal kind of setup that we do.
Hint, budget adjustment.
Yeah, I think we're doing good on that. So that's about all I have. So
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there for the first one you talked about. I didn't put it on my calendar, and if it doesn't get on my calendar, I don't get there anymore. So make sure it gets on my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm
I
looking-
think we figured out that maybe doing it in wintertime might be a better choice instead of the nicest day of the year. I think was on Wednesday night and it was 80 degrees, and so I think people found other things to go do. So, but Thursday was great. We had a really good turnout. So.
Are you gonna have extra staffing for this weekend
Um,
or do anything?
just our normal, yeah, just our normal, nothing extra. But we expect obviously traffic will start to become crazy tomorrow and Friday, so.
Yeah, I was shocked how crazy it was on Sunday,
Yeah,
how backed up it was and how long it was, so.
yeah.
Camp Polk Road is all I can tell you. That's the way to get back in town.
Scenic tour.
We had a car fire.
Put that on the record. I'm just kidding.
We had a car fire out there last week that was related to a crash, and a lot of people were trying to avoid town. And we had Camp Polk shut down, and so they were trying to go around, and we're like, nope, you gotta go back into town. So that didn't work that day, so,
They were not happy campers.
yeah.
There were stats that were sent. Is there any questions about any of that?
Just appreciate all that you and your men are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Men and women, although we don't have any women.
We don't have.
We got our West deputies. We
Okay.
definitely have some of our female deputies that come out and work out west and will help us out for sure. And our, I should mention, our new records specialist has been hired because our Joe, who was our record specialist, got hired and transferred into the jail. He's in training. And then Rainey Stein is our new record specialist. She's being trained in Bend, and she should start sometime in June out here. So I know the public's been patient with us, but we've had a lot of knocks on the door. We get a lot of foot traffic, and so people coming in to dispose medications and sharps and ask questions. So we're very much looking forward to having
Isn't that
her.
Rainy.
Rainey Stein. She's from Bend, and but she's excited to be on board.
Gonna start about when?
Well, she started in Bend, but she should be out here, I would think about mid-June. So
You take sharps anytime.
we do. Yep, we're one of the only places in town that take sharps, and you can bring in actually a sharps container. We do have some sharps containers there available to put sharps into, but then they get sent over with our disposed medications for incineration. So
That's good to know. I thought I had to take them out to landfill, so.
yeah, actually we do. A lot of medical offices will send people our way, or the fire department will send people our way, because we're one of the few places that take them. So.
That's good to know.
And do you take meds too?
Yeah, we have a medication disposal bin. And so you can bring any old medications. Obviously, that's a huge issue, trying to get rid of narcotics and old expired medications and things so they don't get stolen and fall into the wrong hands or the hands of kids. So, yeah. Yeah.
Public service announcement, please don't put them down the drain.
yeah. Yeah. So,
We
yeah,
don't
we
need
have,
them in our system out there.
and we have that at our main office in Bend as well. But yeah, we have one, and we also have flag disposal too. Our veterans group comes if you have old flags that you want to dispose of. They will dispose of them properly. So.
Thank you.
All good stuff?
Yes,
Any
sir.
question, any final questions? All right, have a good rodeo.
Okay.
We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
All right, now to council business. Thank you, Lieutenant Davis, for coming in.
Looks like Paul.
Yep.
Go ahead, Paul.
Paul Britannia is coming up, Public Works Director, talk about the proposed rate increases for the water and sewer utilities. This is following your workshop you had on those rate increases with the consultant and staff that we discussed. That was in April. So you have two resolutions tonight, one for each utilities, for water and then sewer as well.
Okay. So we have Chris Gonzalez with FCS Group online, here to answer any questions, provide any details, and if you want to geek out on rates, he's here for you guys. So, but with this, I'm going to keep it pretty short. We got clear direction from you all at the May 8th workshop to go back and finalize the rate report, which is included in your packet, as well as move ahead with the conservation-based approach for the water rate policy. And with that, we did that. I think the biggest thing that we can wrap our head around why we're here is the master plan got approved and we have about $21 million worth of projects. 13 million have to be debt serviced and they got to be secured by rate revenue. So that's really why we're here. And during that time period of redoing the master plans from the last time we did a rate increase, we just saw huge inflationary adjustments. So that's really what it boils down to, why we're here in front of you. With that, we have in the resolution to look at this every year to make sure that we are collecting enough revenue or not too much revenue, and make annual adjustments as necessary. So with that, I think we got out in front of everybody. We sent a 2-page flyer describing what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it last week. We also took it to our Public Works Advisory Board. They recommended approval as well as it was written. So there you go. Here to answer any questions.
All right, anybody have any questions?
Chris, did you have anything to add?
Not particularly. I mean, I think you covered the basics. I mean, there's the need to keep up with inflation and make sure that you're not falling behind. But otherwise, it's really driven by the capital plan and the funding strategy. I mean, I guess another point I would bring up is we've assumed that the debt being issued would be revenue bonds, but if the city is able to get any kind of loans from state or federal agencies that have lower costs, I mean, it might be a better outcome than what we're projecting.
All right, it's on the council discussion. I wanted to say something that's parallel with this, which is we've decided to take the conservation route, not only for the reasons that have already been discussed, but it's the right thing to do. And we've had a lot of discussions about water recently with the new OWRD, Oregon Water Resources Department. They're coming out with new rules. And, with new rules about controlling how much water rights are going to get passed out in the future, if we're not conserving, they're not going to let us try and get more water. So this is the way to go, not just for, again, all the reasons we've already talked about, but it's the right thing to do. And it's the way of the path forward. If we're not conserving water, they'll never, ever consider us getting more, even with growth. So this is the way to go. We're not the only one in Central Oregon doing it. Everybody's doing it. I'm looking forward to voting for this. If there's no other discussion about it, we could probably entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2024-11.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
No dissension? Sounds great. 5-0. All right,
Thank you.
act number 2.
Okay, so next we'll dive into the wastewater utility rates. Same thing, we brought these to you at that May 8th workshop and went through the financial plans, everything to do with the master plans, the need for these large capital projects. We have about $12 million worth of projects to do in the next 6 years or so, and we'll have to borrow from this fund or to secure from this fund about $4 million in debt. So not nearly as drastic as the water. So we see a more modest increase, 4% for the next 6 years. And really that tells the tale that we got a good system. We got a pretty tight system. We don't have huge treatment plant improvements that we need to make or collection system improvements, since we do have a fairly new system. So we're lucky to have that. But with that, here to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Council discussion? I'll lead that off again. The other thing I like about what we're doing in capital improvements for this is we're actually adding capacity to the system for future use by extending what Rope Street's going to be able to do with the new, what are you calling that one? Pine Street?
The West Side Pump
West
Station.
Side Pump Station.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So that's going to help the whole system. It's a lot of work, but it needs to get done, right? So. All right, probably entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2024-12.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Oh, 5-0.
I don't take raising rates lightly, especially these days. But I mean, those projects are just
Must-haves.
must-haves. I will sleep easier when we have that second water tank in place. I know that that can't be done soon enough, so all good stuff.
Okay, third item on the agenda is Rope Street wastewater station renovation design.
So this is in consideration of a motion to approve a professional services agreement with, I'll just go with the acronym HHPR. And they are currently under contract designing the West Side Pump Station for us. And so we were able to sole source due to the amount of the contract, the amount of the work that is going to need to be done. And it made sense to use the same engineering firm because they will have to make sure that they hydraulically work together efficiently, because they are pumping into the same pressure main when it does hit locust. So that's very important. So we don't have to have, firms talking to each other to make sure who's doing what and the whole thing works. So this is a more cohesive approach. They are experts in the field. Ken Condit, he is kind of the regional expert in pump stations, has done them for pretty much every agency in Central Oregon. So good group to have on board. We're getting out in front of this. We can't expend any dollars until July 1st, but we wanted to get them under contract, ready to go, so we can just come flying out the gate. So want to get this built in 2025. So we need to get, we got 6 months to get the design done, bid specs ready, and get it out to bid.
That'll be like January.
Yep, which is right when we want to bid this type of stuff. Yeah,
People will be a little hungry at that time.
that's the idea.
So, all right, any discussion, questions?
Are these, pump stations, facilities, are they pretty similar can you go to like a town and they're kind of similar, or are these all just one-off projects and have to be just really engineered specifically to the location and the?
No, it's pretty standard. I mean, you can only go so far and still get the job done. So it's a triplex station. You can do a duplex station. You can do, there's a dozen different varieties, but this is kind of your regional where you're collecting most of your wastewater. This is pretty standard. You're gonna have backup power to it. You're gonna have soft starts. You're gonna have these recirculating non-clog pumps. So we're gonna be speccing the same pumps that are used in all of City of Bend, City of Redmond.
Is there much noise associated with them?
No, they're submersible, so they're underwater. So you really just hear a hum.
I lived near a lift station in one of my homes when I lived in the valley. And you'd walk by it and not even know that it was running. I mean,
Well, that's
so-
good.
And this was an older one. This was, it was next to the former wastewater treatment plant, which had a sewage retention lagoon in case the pump failed. Everybody thought it was a soccer field. That's what we told people. But it was literally keep the wastewater out of the river should the pump fail.
Yeah, we do have a big bright red light out there, and if that comes on and is blinking, we want people to know about it, so. It's when we got an
leave it
issue.
till later.
And this said Rope Street was built about 25 years ago. Is that the average life of this system, or are we?
20-year life. So, but our first, I would say half dozen to 10 years was pretty light use for how big it was built. It was built to serve future capacity. So our pumping hours were very light at the beginning. So we're able to get an additional 4 to 5 years out of the station.
It's definitely timing out.
It's time.
Nice. Any other discussion? If a motion is made, you can use HHPR instead of saying it.
I move to approve a professional services agreement with HHPR Incorporated for the Rope Street Wastewater Station renovation design in an amount not to exceed $98,970 and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
I heard Jennifer first. So,
Okay,
any final discussion?
The top.
it's quite all right.
Well, she's closer, so.
Yeah.
We're stereo.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any dissension?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's get her done. All right, off to staff comments, I guess.
Thank you, Mayor. Your next meeting on June 12th will be at 5 PM. Workshop start time. We'll have the Civic Leadership Academy making their presentation. I think their last meeting was this week, and so they're diligently working on their report and presentation for you for June 12th. June 12th is also a lot of resolutions. As you guys are familiar with, we have all those annual resolutions for the budget. So a nice handful of them, but so you do get one more bite at the apple, by the way, if you want to make any changes. The council can make changes up to a certain amount before having to go back to a full pledge.
I really kind of want to do that just to mess with the, no.
Yeah.
We just
Sorry.
need to do something.
Sorry, Joe.
We have to make a new pie chart.
Saw half his hair go gray when you said that.
I'm sure the mayor will give a report, but we attended the water summit. I think you saw it covered in the media as well. Very well attended. A lot of great information, good dialogue about future of water in the Deschutes Basin. And yeah, a lot of work to go on that, but pretty pleased with the turnout. And the mayor did a great job in making remarks and making sure everybody was included in the conversation too, as an important member of COCO, the vice chair.
And did people who needed to listen?
Yes. I'll give you some more information.
Memorial Day event at Village Green, 11 a.m. I think this is a tradition here. I know the mayor will be making remarks, so I plan to be there as well. So looking forward to that. And
For what? What?
Memorial Day.
Oh, yes, that's on my calendar
Yes,
already. so-
please.
I was a little worried there for a second.
11 a.m. Mayor, on your calendar. And of course, thank you to the veterans for the flags. They're looking great. Even today on a really windy day, holding up and seeing the flags waving in the wind. And then just to follow up on some media last week on the population report, that was kind of an interesting hubbub. And the important thing is that we take the numbers from PSU, they do the population projections for the state. That's the important number for us because that's where our state shared revenue is calculated on. And I think you saw some of the science that we're using, all the data, it's probably a better term, to kind of dispute the numbers that came out from the census about showing a decline in sisters population. I think my remarks were just talk to anybody that lives here and they'll tell you that they feel the growth. But just in terms of the amount of permits that have been issued in the last 3 years, single family starts are well over 300. We have a multi-family unit that has been built and occupied in that amount of time. And then Councilor Cobb made the point today about the sisters precinct having more registered voters than what the census numbers show. So that doesn't even include.
Well, that's because we vote twice here.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of research to kind of uncover the numbers here. And I would trust PSU's numbers just based off their methodology for our state. So, so tonight, I'll bring up staff for their reports. I know they have some things to share. Paul just gave his update. I'll give him a breather. Carrie, do you have anything you want to report tonight?
Just a couple of updates. The civic leadership will be presenting to council on the 12th, and it entails about 60 minutes where they'll do their presentation and you can ask questions. And then we're hoping to have from 6 to maybe 6:25, where the meeting is adjourned, the workshop is adjourned, and there's actually some kind of mixing and talking with counselors. We'll have some refreshments. There's quite a few people that we think are going to be here in the audience for that. So that's kind of the layout of that and their presentation there. We're a really sharp group, and I'm really looking forward to seeing their report. You will see the report prior to the presentation, so you'll have an idea of what they've been working on before they present. The election notice for city council went out today, so people can come and talk with me or pick up the election, look at the election packet online. People can start getting signatures June 5th. They do have to come to me first so I can sign off on a couple of things, and everything is due no later than August 27th. So that season is already opening up after we closed the ballot box last night. And then just wanted to let you know, kind of linking with civic leadership, one of the teachers, the 3rd grade teacher, reached out to Julie and Joe, and we are actually going to have a 3rd grade civic field trip here for 2 days. June 11th and 13th, we have 4 different classes coming in for about 45 and 50 minutes each, and they're going to learn a little bit about the city and civics, and maybe we'll send them away with some cookies at the end after they're done. But that's pretty exciting to have them coming in. It's kind of a fun just continuation. It'll be right in between where the presentation on the 12th. So,
And it's on my calendar too.
yes,
What date was that?
it's June 11th and 13th. So they're coming in kind of, I'd have to look at my calendar, but I think there's a 12:45 and like a 2 something. I have to look at the calendar for the dates. So it'll be pretty fun to have them here.
Yeah.
Building that pipeline early now.
Right? We've got to start early, younger and younger.
I have a question about the Civic Leadership Academy. That's the totality of our workshop in
Yes.
June 12th, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've
Just
been-
want to make sure.
Yep. Yeah. I've been holding people off on that one so that
Okay. Yeah, no, it's
so
fine.
that they get their time.
I just want to make sure because I want to time hawk it enough to be able to just say, hey, we want to have a little time in between. So
Right.
if I have to hurry up the presentation near the end or something, I might do that just to make sure we have 20 minutes or so. I don't think I'll have to because I think they want to talk to us. So.
All right. Any questions?
Is that amount of time going to be enough for the presentation?
Yeah, it should be great. I'm assuming the presentation will be about 40. I told them 30 to 40 minutes for the presentation, 20 minutes or so that you can ask questions back and forth of the cohort because they'll be all here, and then kind of that breakout time where they can ask individual questions. I think each of you that were here, people at the beginning had asked you questions about different things, and it'd be nice to have some of that time at the end as well.
Can we do something fun for that workshop? Have them up here and we'll be down there.
You might throw them for a loop on that one.
It's like you want to be a leader. You gotta get used to being up here. We'll be down there and we'll ask you
A
questions.
little taste, yeah.
I don't know. It's up to you guys. I don't care. I thought it was pretty
I
good
think
idea.
it's a cute idea. I like that.
The roundabout art survey.
Oh, yeah, the Roundabout Art Survey went out last week, and have you looked today? It was over 7. Yeah, it's over 800 responses at this point. And we're open till June 11th, so everybody keep sending that thing out. We'll figure out what we're
I've
doing.
heard a lot of chatter about it.
Yeah,
You didn't leave a spot for write-in, so I could not. get my,
absolutely did not.
bulldozer Artwork in there that I wanted.
Take a code change.
Right, that was out of the development code, so yeah, specifically. So yeah, that's pretty fun to have that many people responding to it so
One
fast.
person on Facebook wanted nothing. And I thought, well, that's the wildest idea I've ever heard.
I
A
don't
pile
know.
of dirt
I
would
don't
be
want no
fine.
Wanna drive over it.
art.
Just leave
Yeah.
the stake in the dirt and we'll call it good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
Alright.
we just move the horse there.
I've heard that before. It's not big enough though.
No.
There's a scale factor about art in a roundabout, and most artists will tell you you should have about 1 to 1.5 times the size to make it look right for how big the roundabout
Put
is.
it on a bigger podium.
Maybe.
I think
Anyway,
it's fine with
so,
that.
um,
I think that's kind of what the.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Joe, do you have anything else?
Not much. Picking up the pieces from budget a little bit. So thank you all for your participation and effort and time into that process. That was great. So appreciate that. There's a lot of lead time by staff for that meeting. So thanks for your participation in that. So a couple of things. I wasn't here last meeting, but and I was going to talk about a little bit about the campground. As you know, the reservations went live. That was May 1st, and we have camp hosts there in place. They were there a couple days before, and they're getting acclimated to the season. It's the same 2 sets that we had last year, so they're familiar with everything. You might have seen them already out and about, and they've been great. And we're cautiously optimistic that we'll have a UT1 here. We've got a good candidate in place. A little bit early to disclose any information about the utility one of the public works positions. So hopefully the next meeting we'll have some good news for you all on that, but encouraging on that end. And yeah, that's about it.
All right.
Great. Paul? Thanks, Joe.
Thanks. Thanks, Joe.
They're still working out there. That's nice to see.
It's a pleasant change.
So the latest update we sent out to you all, as well as Carrie put it on her Facebook page on the Locust 20 roundabout came in today. What I got from the construction office is they poured about 260 yards today, so about 26 trucks worth of concrete. And they're going to continue that, it looks like through Wednesday of next week. Then they're going to pave Thursday and Friday, mostly night paving. And then they'll bring striping crews in and stripe at night the Saturday and Sunday so they can open it Monday morning. So a lot of work has to be done. A lot of things have to fall in place. Weather is obviously one of them. But that's the latest that we got from ODOT today. Because we have to have it, at least the westbound leg for the rodeo parade. So, and they definitely understand that. So they've committed to hitting it. Just a few public events in the next couple weeks. Farmers markets starting on Sunday. We got the Sisters Stampede as well on Sunday. And you'll see a short little parade route from Blazing Saddles down to Oak Street, Sisters Coffee area. It's where they're going to close down the side streets and they'll run the horse down and do their start of the race. And then the riders will migrate out to Elm Street and then up into the PRT system. And then we got, let's see, touched on the Memorial Day. We also have the rodeo parade on June 8th. The rodeo parade starts at 9:30. We'll start diverting traffic at 9. We'll be setting up traffic control about 8 o'clock. And then we got the gravel grinder on June 2nd. That's a pretty big event. We got them to not completely run it out of Village Green. So they're starting out at SPRD and then finishing at Village Green. So it'll be active, but you won't have that slug of runners all going or bikers all going at once. They'll be trickling in as they're coming off of the PRT. So that's all I had.
I like event updates. So,
Yeah.
my wife's always saying, well, how come you didn't know that was going on? I'm like, I don't know. I can't keep track of everything.
I've reported on how many of these permits I sign. It's only, weekly, one or two, and they just keep coming.
Right.
And I guess the event over Blazing Saddles is also going on the day before. They're having a band, and if you looked at the registration information the day before the race pickup pack, they have a band.
I think that's what it is. It's registration. Yep.
And food trucks and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where they're gonna be. The food trucks and stuff are gonna be.
Right behind Blazing Saddles.
Parking lot.
Yep.
Parking lot, yeah.
Yep.
So there could be a lot of activity in around that area, I guess is what I'm saying, for people who like to use that as the detour around downtown. It might be a good time to not use it.
Yeah, there will be all the way through that Sunday morning. So.
Yeah.
And then Monday, obviously around Village Green will be packed. For sure.
Do you want to mention the bench, or is Scott gonna mention the bench?
Is Scott online?
Yeah, I think yes.
Yeah, we'll let Scott, debrief.
And I've got information on it too, so. Right, cool. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Paul. All right, Scott.
I hope he's got the apocalypse now, though. That was awesome.
See, so the bench, you guys, I think you got word of that, or maybe you didn't. I guess I updated the Parks Board. Should have updated you guys too. But Paul tells me that the memorial bench is in place out at Creekside for Andrew Dutterer, the person that passed away a couple of years that Upper Deschutes Watershed Council is helping to honor his work. And so that beautiful bench that got made with all the fish and the otter apparently is in place. And maybe some of you have seen it in person, but it looks pretty awesome. Can't wait to see it. Again, that dedication is July 20th, I believe, on a Saturday. So give you your weekly UGB update. Applications for the steering committee the deadline is Friday afternoon. We have received 12 applications so far, which is good. Hopefully you get a few more before it's all said and done. We are again shooting for 6 community members, kind of at large positions. Plus, we have room for 2 property owners, and I know we have at least a couple of property owners that have property in the study area who've applied. So we're going to be doing some interviews on June 5th and 6th, and interview committee will consist of the mayor, the planning commission chair, principal planner Matt Martin, and myself. And then we will have the appointments on June 12th at the council meeting, with the first steering committee to occur in late June. We haven't determined the exact date yet, but that's what we're shooting for. Conversation we'll have to have at some point is which council members you will choose to represent on that committee. So maybe at the June 12th meeting, sometime during that meeting, we can have that discussion and figure out who's going to be on that committee from council perspective. And we'll also be doing the same with the planning commission. So the website is up and running for the UGB amendment. It's we've got information, basic information on there in terms of project schedule and how you can find more information on. And we also have created a story map, which is a kind of a cool, more sort of interactive, little more glossy, kind of flashy way to kind of describe what the UGB process is. And hopefully it'll be something that the community will appreciate and help break this kind of complicated process down into a little more simpler parts. If you go on our CDD website, we've also been working to help make that more user-friendly to the community. And we've already gotten some good feedback from some community members who are looking specifically for information about development applications and what the status is on them and how they can comment. So that's going on. Planning Commission last week did approve the tourist commercial package of code amendments that were applicant initiated. They voted 4-2, so it wasn't a unanimous vote. There was a good discussion that went on. We have scheduled a workshop with the council now to hear the same set of same proposal. That'll occur June 26th. So you can get your questions answered then in preparation for a public hearing on July 10th. And then short-term rentals, we mentioned last week, or I think 2 weeks before, that the planning commission is going to hear the changes, proposed changes that we've been considering through workshops for the last seemingly 6 months or so. And that'll go forward for the planning commission on June 20th. We will be sending a Measure 56 notice out, probably to every resident in the community. It's a requirement from the state. It was a voter changed process many years ago that we were required to send out these notices to let people know that there is a change to a development code provision that may affect their property values. So you might get one of those in your mail, so just to be aware of that. That is kind of in the nutshell what we're doing. I am working on the partition for Trinity Place, Trinity Way, the one that that will have the lot that the affordable housing project is occupying. So that's getting closer to approval. And we've also got a site plan review for Brunchies in its new location over kind of across from catty corner from Blazing Saddles, kind of behind Space Age, or one of those vacant parcels. And still working through the process on the what they're calling the Baker Building. That's that vacant lot adjacent to Dixie's. So any questions I can answer on any of that or anything else?
One thing I would add, planning related, the website, the story map, check it out if you haven't, on the urban growth boundary and the growth management website. Scott and his staff have done a great job of updating those pages, but also Emmy this week has published a new active land use applications webpage, kind of updated that site so that it's in a table format, easy to kind of read and understand what's being proposed, what type of application it is, what's the status. So again, just easier for the public to kind of understand, what's going on, what kind of development is happening in the community. So I appreciate Scott's staff doing that.
I appreciate it. I get asked all the time, so what's going on down the city? It's like, I don't have that much time, sorry, to tell you about every project. And honestly, I don't know all of them. Obviously, I'm not into the day-to-day, so. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's on the what's happening page. You go through the what's happening, or what were you talking about? The UGB? He's looking it up. Website.
So from the homepage now,
The active land use or the
you can,
UGB one?
on below the what's happening, there's actually a button to go straight to the UGB amendment
Oh, okay.
site.
It's a new button.
Yep. They added a new button. And then under,
It looks like a credit card.
Is that good?
And then under what?
yeah, I guess it does. And I think maybe, yeah.
It looks like online bill pay as well, so maybe.
It does. I think we
Yeah.
must be designing a logo or something for that.
Maybe it's just the placeholder.
This is my day to criticize websites. I got the trash.
That's
can.
okay. That's it. This is good. We're getting feedback. And then under community development, the active land use applications,
Yeah, I know where
It-
that is.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
that'll take you to the new table and it's formatted and much easier to kind of figure out what's going on.
Mayor, may I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so while we're on this topic of what's on the website, so I brought in, I printed the newsletter, our monthly newsletter,
The roundup.
thank you, Roundup. And I took it over to FICA, and I was showing people, where do you get this? And so I said, well, you can sign up for it, on the website. And so then I went on the website and I went into what's happening. And then you had to go down to view more on that left-hand side. And then when you go in there, then you can find the roundup, but it says it's dated 1/2024. So when we put the more current monthly roundup on there, it's not updating the date of it.
Okay.
That wouldn't be a terrible button either. Sign up for the roundup. Well,
Yeah, I think we can add that too on how do I, that section, how do I sign up for the roundup? And just, I'm like, I mean, it's like up above 1,600 emails. Yeah.
that's amazing.
Go to the main.
But do you get it if you have a water
Yeah.
account?
And then you go here and it says roundup.
That's why I'm getting it.
2024.
We subscribe. Yeah. You can.
You
unsubscribe.
opted,
I don't want you to.
you
but-
opted to see it because we pay for water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they're, yeah, if you have a
So that's,
email account.
So tell them
for
to
water-
pay their water bill and they'll get the. I'm just
I mean,
kidding.
yeah.
Well, but I-
I'm joking, I'm joking.
I realized the other day that my husband wasn't seeing it because I was getting it because my name's on the water bill, and I was like, oh, I should be forwarding these to him, so.
But, you know, talking about the roundup, we just had a little back and forth because I found it easily, but I didn't find it the way normal people would. I found it by going to active. That's right. I went to, I'm very much not normal. I went to the active projects webpage and right at the very top, it's just around and it's all up to date. But when you do it through the front page where you say what's happening, it's not. It sends you down the rabbit hole. So that might be something even when you,
Well, I just think it should
Try
have
to
its
find a
own
little-
icon.
little bit
I
more
really
clear.
do, because
Little
it's so,
newspaper button.
yeah, it's a little, yeah, thank you, a newspaper button. Because it's, it's something that people would enjoy reading online if they wanted.
Well,
but the website does look better other than the campground.
Oh, the website's great. You guys are doing a good job.
Always striving for continuous improvement.
Well, working on communication, right?
That's right. And you might hear.
be
some
interesting to
stuff
see what they have to say.
delay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Poor Scott.
So we good?
We're good. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, on to Mayor Councilor Business. I have Councilor Let's go on first.
Oh, boy. I think I mentioned during the budget meeting, we had the EDCO board meeting a couple of weeks ago, with a great speaker from the San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank talking about trends. And I forwarded that all to you. And I know it's about, the video is like 20, 30 minutes, but it's worth the time if you want to. It helped kind of clear things up. It helped me in the decision-making process on raising rates in the respect that, things are still tough, but they're getting better. And, certainly the suggestion, from the consultants, and staff to, revisit our rates annually to make sure that they're on target, not too high and not too low. I think, made me much more comfortable with that, but the budget information from him was really interesting, so. Also participated in the small, SCED group, the small, Sisters Economic Developments Board, had a meeting and had Peter Hoover presented at that, so I could do his presentation for him at this point, but, with Habitat. And, yeah, then I attended the second night of the Sheriff's Academy, so that was a good time. I dragged my kid and there was a couple other kids and it was over 3 hours and nobody lost their minds, so I think they were entertained and liked what they were seeing, so.
Nobody got bit?
Well, one person got bit.
Yeah, but he had a thing on. He had a
He
suit.
had the special coat on, so yeah, that was an exciting way to end the evening, was watching a man get attacked by a dog, so.
It's the best part every
Yeah,
time.
enthusiastically get attacked. Yeah, and that was nice because I chimed in, I hope that was okay, about our relationship and with the city and the sheriff's department and the financial relationship and that history. So I think that was helpful, just people understood. Because we had just come out of the budget process to kind of reiterate to people that, on the scale of how we're spending money and the services, I think this is a win-win. So, pointed out, I think I can't remember, Joe or Paul or somebody mentioned about, or maybe somebody said, if we had our own fire department, of our own
Yep.
police department, our workman's comp, our insurance, I mean, everything would just be through the roof. So just kind of trying to make sure everybody knows that we do keep an eye on all those dollars and pennies that they entrust us with, so. I think that's it.
She's saying it's working, so, and that we like it. So, any questions for Jennifer? Okay. Counselor Cobb, got you second.
So I watched the video that you shared, Jennifer, and I
Did I
did.
oversell it? Or was-
No, no, I did find it fascinating. And I thought it was particularly interesting that the increase in goods and services was really about services and not goods, that goods were actually declining. And that services was resisting declining because services aren't impacted by Fed indexes. So I found that really fascinating, because they're slow, services are slow to react. So that helped feel better, because people are saying the prices of things are getting higher and higher and higher, and no, they're not. So it was interesting. Yep. I did attend the band, I forgot what was it called, you couldn't make it, he's not here, Eric Strobel, what was that?
Echo,
I can't remember the event.
Venture.
It was a tour, yeah, but it wasn't called Ben Tour, it was called something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a good tour. And it was fascinating seeing some of these companies that deliver not only throughout the United States, but parts unknown in other countries. And, watching an assembly line for a brewing establishment of different beers and going all the way into the, pouring it into the cans and boxing it up. And it was really fascinating. It was really worth the tour, I thought. I hope others will go.
Okay, any questions? Counselor Ross.
Yeah, I don't have too much. Just sort of an update on something that Scott said, and it was related to the bench. I received a very nice email today because I posted the picture up online, and so the Deschutes Watershed Council got a hold of me and asked that the family is planning that dedication on the 20th of July, and I think it's I get my picture all right, there we go. It is at noon, and they think they have 50 people signed up for it. And so, yeah. Including, yeah, and me. And so, I replied back to her. She asked that if Susan or I would go and say some words, and I said, well, typically, we like the mayor, or we put it in front of the city council, and someone goes and says some words or something. If Michael can't do it, because I think he's out of town, I don't know if Andrea can, but of the three remaining of us, again, I don't know what the 20th of July looks like for me. July's a long way off, but I think we can, between all of us, figure out how to have someone there to say some welcome remarks and a few things about how important the work that the Watershed Council did. And Andrew was instrumental in that initial project. He was a big part of it in creating the White's Creek that we have going through Creekside Park. So much better than what it was. And I think so much better that it will be in the future. So just
I
so we're aware
vote
of that.
for either
So-
you or Jennifer doing that.
or you. It'd be one of us. Anyway, so I basically said one of us would be there to represent the city and to welcome the guests. And that would be, actually, I'll set noon is actually 11 a.m. So, that's the 20th, the Saturday of the 20th of July.
It's kind of helpful to have someone step up and say they're gonna do it. That way they know who to expect, and if they're doing any, presentation material.
And I've said I would do it, but I need to check my family calendar to be sure I'm even in the state.
If you guys wouldn't, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm definitely out of town. I'll be in
Yeah.
Klamath Falls, so for
Are you-
the
are you-
OMA annual conference, Oregon Mayors Association. So
We'll figure it out. We have enough time to give them a definite name and answer. I've said somebody will do it from the council, and I just think it's far enough off right now that it's hard for all of us to say, yes, I'm gonna be on Saturday, the 20th.
It's just one of those important things. It's,
Yep.
you know, it's
To
basically
reply right
thank you
away.
to the family.
And I have to walk across the street, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm home.
We'll let them figure it out,
The
right?
walk in the park.
Yeah, it's a walk in the park. And
Did you guys get that? Oh, no.
And it's nice. There's you couldn't see it in the picture I showed you, but there's a nice,
Very nice.
brick kind of paver base underneath it. And like I said, my only concern is that the artist signed his name and the name of the artwork with a Dremel, so it's kind of a part of the wood, it's organic, but when you first walk up, my first thought was, geez, it's been here an hour and somebody's already carved their initials in it. So that's really what I thought, until I got down and looked at it, of course. So I hope it doesn't encourage anything all like that, but it's a beautiful piece of work. Yeah, it really is. And given that we've had otters in the stream, the otter theme is very appropriate.
Oh, I thought it was weasels. I'm just-
No,
I don't-
water
They're the-
weasels.
They're a member of the
Those
same
are
family.
otters.
One gets wet, one doesn't. Right?
Yeah. Water
All right,
Uh,
anything
and
else?
That's about it. I mean, the Urban Forestry Board is really getting kind of heated up over the tree ordinance and what we should do or shouldn't do in terms of enforcing code. And they went all around, and I finally reminded them that we have plenty of time to make a decision as to what fees should be or fines should be if someone takes down an historic tree or something like that in the city, on private property or something. There's some it's very nebulous, and Scott and I are working on it. And I think that what I try to give them the message is, you don't have to solve this today. We're not gonna workshop this probably till sometime late in the summer, early in the fall, this time to come up with the appropriate kind of language and what we want to do.
Don't let the urban forestry get lost in the weeds.
They were getting lost in the forest.
Yeah, for the trees. Yeah.
They couldn't see the forest.
But it's a good group of people, and they're working very
Maybe
hard.
get out of here.
And it's kind of a different makeup than we've had in the past, and this group's very interested in some of the things we're talking about related to heritage trees.
No, it's a
and
good
preserving
discussion.
the urban
Yeah.
forest. So it's a good discussion. It's just that, could take a little work.
Yeah. Tell them to give us a
It's a
framework
public
and,
process right
you know,
now.
we're gonna have a say on the detail parts of it,
Oh, yeah,
especially the money parts and all that. We're
Right,
gonna wanna
exactly. And I think
Have discussions
what
about
I'm
it.
trying to
because-
get them to is a recommendation that comes to this group as to what it should look like, and it might
Yeah.
even be 2 recommendations. So,
Maybe. Yep.
So I have something else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so on the point of heritage, do we want to think about at some future point, having some kind of process to identify heritage buildings? I know we did in the downtown core, but we have that one out there on Ranch that, although it's been said that it, needs to be taken down, it's a possibility for restoration. And so, are we willing to just get rid of something that old and having, that property has been, I think it was J.J. Smith since 1886.
And you see that as a heritage?
I do for our city because it's one of the oldest histories on property in
And
our
when
area.
When was it built?
The first property owner was J.J. Smith.
I
and
mean, the Conklin House itself.
The Conklin House, as it is now, was constructed by Lundgrens, and it was a redesign of the one that was Barclays, which was quite different, owned by Barclay, and that was when, I don't know, the gentleman that lived there in his teens is now 89 years old, so, and then there was before that, so.
Is it 100 years old?
the actual structure,
Only part of it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of it that's.
It's a farmhouse that got turned into
a big,
a bigger than a
Yeah.
farmhouse, and it got
Yeah,
added
like
to.
many did, yeah.
Yeah, it was a school
It's
for a
structurally,
while.
it's a Frankenstein. I mean, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, I just mean it's been added to and
Okay.
remodeled and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not historic, because parts of it probably have wood from the 1800s, no doubt. No, just,
So anyway, I just wonder if we would, consider that.
my personal opinion is that a lot of it depends on the owner of the property. They own it.
Mm-hmm.
So I put the most weight into that.
We
I mean,
went through, and it wasn't just down to town,
It was
an
the whole time.
historical review of every home and every business.
Not that one.
It
I
wasn't
read,
included
right, I read all the
in
material.
what
From 2018, the report from 2018, it was not included because it wasn't in the commercial zone that was being defined as part of the assessment.
They did all the houses.
Downtown, I know.
Not downtown, all kinds of houses,
Yeah.
all over, and they weren't in commercial zones. Cause I remember
But they
several of
didn't
them.
do that one. It wasn't listed. Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm not interested in it. I think it's a wreck. It's a loser. It ought to be torn down.
Yeah, the
If the
county,
owner wants to turn it.
Yeah, no, I mean, if
Yeah.
somebody wants to buy it for $2 million and fix it up,
3 million.
3 million, sorry,
Yes.
and fix it up, they have every right to do that, but I don't see it as having any sister's historical value that the community or the city or taxpayers would want to dump a bunch of money into it to bring it back. Because what you'd have, for it to have historical value, you'd have to take off all the new stuff. And you would end up with this little core that what originally was, and try and bring it back to. And I don't see that as a good use of the property or but that's up to the owner of the property, whether they want to have it designated and they can apply, I suppose, then for federal and state grants to try and bring the property back to some sort of historical condition. But I don't see that as anything that the taxpayers, the sisters ought to care about.
I would say personal experience, having lived in 2 houses that were over 200 years old in Maine, family homes. Frankenstein's a little too strong a word, but I can tell you, working in those, that it's always interesting when you move from one century of construction into another century of construction. And it's difficult to ascertain. And my problem with the Conklin property isn't that it may have some historic elements within it. I believe it probably does. It's trying to identify those. Do we have images of what was there? And how much of that is left? Because when people go into a lot of those houses, the way they were built with post and beam and stuff, you can go in and you could pretty much gut the interior of them. But then you start adding modern construction on with trusses and stuff, they get a real mess, and they get a real mess real fast. I've always looked at when I drove by, I thought, boy, it'd be nice to fix that thing up. Not for the kind of money they want for it, but I have not been in it, so I cannot make any comments about what the interior is like. I've heard everything from, it's salvageable to it could fall down any minute. And so, it depends on which side of that argument you're on. And I'm probably somewhere in the middle part of that argument. Like I said, having lived in historic homes, I can tell you historic homes are drafty. Historic homes do not keep the window. Typically, the real walls are insulated with newspaper, which burns like you would not believe. And knob and tube wiring is not your friend.
Yeah, the county has it listed as 1947. That doesn't necessarily mean that's totally accurate, but is it, and I don't know, I don't know about this process. The question is, does the city have any?
Right.
Usually it's like a county thing or something, to kind of designate historic structures, I think, but I'm not fuzzy on
Well, I
the
think
concept.
that was part of the process that we went through, why that particular property was excluded. Maybe, I don't know, there was because it was designated as 1947, so they didn't look at it. I don't know. That remains to
Or
be
it
seen.
could even have been that it was in that sort of in-between ownership limbo that's been in for so many years that there wasn't anybody even really to talk to about it to know whether or not there was anything. I have no clue. But I do know that when you guys did the 75th anniversary stuff and all that work was done, it was pretty extensive, and it did extend beyond the downtown core. A lot of the buildings in the down core got marked because that's kind of the way it is. But there are a lot of other homes in this community. Some of the old Forest Service buildings that are up off of Washington and that area, and that are very clearly historic. And so, are they what they look like when they got moved to where they are now?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of.
And we don't have any other building of that kind, that, that large, almost Victorian
Yeah, it's
style.
really unfortunate that the owner decided to just let it go. And because it would
Owners
be a
and farm operators.
wonderful
Yeah.
wedding.
I always figured
you
it
know,
had a
I-
fire when I saw it all boarded up, so.
Okay, anyway, just to keep discussion going, Gary, did you have any more?
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, the park and the board. And by the way, I did get an email, you may have also got it also from the Chutes National Forest. They're doing a prescribed burn next week, I believe, in Bend. They're inviting those of us that are in elected office who wish to participate and see what's going on. You can register for it. And I'm gonna go.
Cool.
And so.
You gotta have a certain kind of boot though, so remember that.
Yep.
part.
Yeah, I already have them. Yep, nope. So, Danners. So,
I did that a couple of years ago, it was fun.
yeah, it'd be interesting to go see, so.
Okay.
Okay, we had a Charo meeting recently, and there had been a request for proposals for various sundry projects. And we were able to get 7 submissions. The total request for the projects was 4.5 million. They were all from local applications, even though we actually made it region-wide. 4 were for safe parking, 2 tiny home villages, and 1 managed camp was proposed. And they would all be utilizing private property from Deschutes County or the city of Bend. A review committee went through them all and scored them and made recommendations. And the Charo board approved their recommendations. And so now what happens to them is they move on to the proposal itself, then gets refined, because we didn't want them to go through months and months of preparation to find out, no, this isn't what we were looking for. So they're going to refine their proposals with some comments back from the review committee. And then they're going to approach the property owner. So it isn't going to be the Charo board that's going to say yay or nay, because we don't have the money. So the proposal will go to the property owner, be it the county, the city, or private, and and see if they can come out with a way to move forward on those proposals. And then they have to figure out the funding on their own. So if we had a proposal from here and the Charo board had said, yes, tier 1, this is great, whatever, the only thing that going through the board did for the process was had all kinds of people that are in the know reviewing it to see what's good and what's proper and what's workable and what the problems might be that would be difficult for our own staff to do. So that's already kind of been done for the proposal. And then it would be for us to determine whether or not we wanted to find a way to try and fund it. So that's what's going to happen to these proposals. I think that there's a good chance for some of them. Oasis Village which is already there in eastern Redmond area. They're just want to expand. They've got a small project, a number, 10, 12 units already there, individual little cabin things, and they've sorted it out and they've got it working. They've got it established. They know what they're doing. They know what it's going to cost. So it's fairly simple for them to say, okay, now we just want to do 10 more, so we'll try with that. So their proposal, they requested 500,000. And that would be startup and operations for a year. All the proposals are startup and then operations for a year. Had a couple of safe parking programs and had that same location south of Les Schwab in South Bend where there had been some discussion before about city, county owned, I can't remember whether it was county owned property, city, looks like it's City of Bend property. They've actually came forward with a proposal of what it would look like so that people could see, you know, it's going to be completely fenced in. It's going to be, you know, the proposal would look like, and it actually looks like a fairly good proposal. There was only 2 that were recommended for, without question, they can move forward. And then there was a couple that were, they can move forward, but we need a little more information. And I can send you a whole list of the proposals and how they pointed out if you're interested in them. There was a parking proposal. The only one outside of Bend Redmond Sisters was one in Lapine. And it was a good proposal, but they didn't, the committee didn't think it was actually the right location. So they're going to try and work with them, the group, to be able to find a better location for it. So it may eventually move forward. So interesting stuff. We'll see once that gets to the actual site and they start doing the public outreach. That's always where the problems, not always, but I think Oasis Village, I doubt that they'll get any issues. They're already there. They're just expanding. So I don't think you'll
They're
have.
scaling up.
Yeah, they're scaling up. And I think that, you know, and they've already, what issues they've had with the public and the concerns, they've already worked those out.
This is the one out by the airport.
Yes, yeah, east.
Yeah.
East.
I'd like a copy. Does everybody want a
Yes.
copy?
Oh, okay.
And decide to trash it or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, sending that. to
Yeah, I was
council.
going to suggest a lot of times the discussion that we have in here, especially if it's a discussion at 9 o'clock at night, I don't absorb all of it super well.
Yeah.
So having Susan's notes and Jennifer's, you know, the presentation actually brings it home a lot better to me, because then when I'm, you know, kind of thinking things over the weekend, I can look over something and I absorb it a little better, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
So I will forward that to everybody. Also, we had a regional housing council meeting on Monday, trying to find its footing on what it is we could do and what we want to do, and is everybody on the same page for it? And fortunately, it's conducted by COIC, and they have their tentacles into practically everything that's going on in the community. So a gentleman who works for COIC said, well, I think you ought to really start zooming in on the fact that the state is going to come out with housing production targets for the cities January 1st. And that we ought to have some idea of what that means. What are they going to look at? What are they going to base those targets are? Are they going to help us fund them? You know, what does that mean exactly? You know, because
Where are we gonna put them?
we've gone through our housing needs analysis. We kind of know what we need. But so anyway, that's something I guess we're gonna be looking into. I mentioned it to our city manager here, and he immediately was able to find about it online, and he said, oh, only cities over 10,000 population. So chances are we're not gonna have a bunch of requirements land.
Close the gates. Don't let anybody else in.
Yeah, but as that turns out.
PSU projection though, I mean, we could.
That's right, we could use it,
right.
that's it.
We'll go back to
But
this.
then we realized that does include Prineville, surprisingly, there are 11,000 now. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Carrie
growing.
looked that up and said, whoa, yeah, they've, yeah. So, we might be looking at that. These 2 meetings made me pause a little bit, because we're already talking about next year. And I'm not going to be here next year. And I don't know for sure of you folks, I know some of you will be here next year, but there's, you know, some possibility that maybe we need to do a little transitioning if if that's at all feasible. I don't know, Susan or Jennifer, if either of you are interested in changing the portfolio that you have, or are you planning to be here next year? So think about that. Because a lot of the things that I'm getting in, that I'm involved in, are things that are going to be making decisions for something somebody else is going to take over. And I guess that's a pretty common thing. It
Yeah.
happens every time there's an election.
Every
But-
January, every. 2
Yeah,
years.
so I guess it's to, in the back of your mind, think about, is that anything you're interested in, or changing the portfolio? And I'll try and leave a notebook full of reasonable information for that. But
I think we know where you live as well.
you know what?
We know where you live.
Yeah, well, but I'm gonna go, excuse me, I'm not, it's not my problem
I don't
anymore.
talk.
Well, I mean, your
You're right.
Counselor Blum, your idea of having a notebook, I think will be perfect, because,
Yeah, at least
there's no
start
guarantee,
with something.
there's no guarantee if we do run that we get elected. I mean, it seems like we would, but who knows?
Yeah, that's true. And I also wanted to say that, given my current family conditions, I will not be volunteering for any extra duties. I am working hard to maintain the things that I am currently involved in, but don't feel bad if something comes up and you say, well, I didn't ask Andrea if she wanted to do it. Well, if it's an extra thing, I probably would.
I already signed you up for 5.
I know, I'm very irritated because I want to be on the UGB expansion committee, but that's a carryover committee to next year, and that'd be dumb for me to start out with that. And I couldn't give it the time that it needs anyway, so I wanted to let everybody know that that's my situation, so I
Yeah,
won't be
if you
going.
get to the point, and I'm being just dead honest here, if you get to the point where even that stuff is
You tell
too
us.
much, you let us know, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, with Zoom, it's
Little easier.
really, really helps,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and one they feed you, so you hate to miss out on the ones where they feed you.
Yeah, taco trucks, yeah,
Yeah,
hard to beat.
hard to beat.
That's why I want to go to the bike ped meetings from now on. They feed you real well at those.
All right, anything else?
No,
All right. I'll finish up. I will talk about the water summit. We kind of touched on it a little bit. So just so everybody knows, that was a Central Oregon Cities Organization event. Redmond hosted, Mayor Fitch kind of ran the show as far as elected officials, but Doug Riggs and Jim McCauley from League of Oregon Cities were the facilitators, so they sat up front. Anybody else who used water sat in a U shape around them. That was all the elected officials from different levels, including Vicky Breeze, Representative Vicky Breeze Iverson, and Representative Levy was there. Bill Chang was there. All the mayors were there. Many city managers were there. There were 73 people there to talk about water. Fantastic.
city managers with hair,
What?
is that what you said?
I did not say.
We're
that.
there.
We're there, oh, I was gonna say, that was a cheap shot. Oh, okay.
I think you heard it right. You just wanted to give the cheap shot.
Anyway, all the Water Conservancy people were there. Water Watch was there. Water Watch and Phil Chang were probably the most, conservative on water issues as far as being very careful about, taking more out of the ground, and very tough on cities about being, conservationists. And, we do that, but we also need some water certainty, being that we're growing and getting all the infrastructure ready for more growth. And we're tasked to do that, and housing as well. So it's a delicate balance. It was the first water summit of its kind in a long time. One of the bigger discussions is a water mitigation program that the Deschutes Basin Collaborative, and we've all bought into, that we all get our water from, we buy and negotiate credits and water rights and all this stuff. And the state's kind of interested, not real interested right now in continuing that program and letting it sunset in 2029. Even though it's a super successful program, we've seen what we've done with, Squaw Creek, Watches Creek. It's improved with our proper management. We've seen, the middle Deschutes and upper Deschutes, have 4 times the amount of water over the last 25 years since that mitigation program started. It's a successful program. It's run by us regionally here. And I'm just gonna say it, the state doesn't care. They want control over it. They wanna use, they're kind of going backwards and going to a one size fits all. When COCO was formed for this exact issue back in 1998. Ed Fitch was part of that, Doug Riggs was part of that. We've had a 25-year history of doing it, and they just kind of want to just throw it all out and just OWRD just wants to run it themselves and have their rules, and that's it. We don't think that's right. They're still changing rules. It's still part of the public process, and through the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think that and then they're going to adopt rules in September. They're probably not going to be super favorable to our cause, and we'll have to do more negotiating through the legislature. The good part is most of the other basin water users, including the people that are really super conservative about it, understand the city's position. We've been partners with them for the last 20 years. It's not like we're just thinking about cities only and just trying to empty the aquifer just because cities need it. That's not what we're doing. We're horse trading just like everybody else is, and collaborating and compromising. And so there's just going to be a lot more discussion about it. The mitigation program, I think we'll have multiple more water type summits and conversations and try and find out how we can continue controlling our own fate, because we're much more better at it than people want to believe. So we'll see how that goes. It's something I'll probably be working on as long as I'm on council now. I've got 3 years into it, and hopefully 3 more years, at least 2.5.
And it's so weird when you think municipalities use 3 to 5% of the whole water use
Yeah.
in the basin, and yet they're hammering us.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, we have, we're talking about, piping irrigation canals. That's good for some reasons, but it also takes some water out of the ground as well, because some of it naturally goes down back into the system. And so there's these little fights about, singular issues.
Right.
Exempt wells is a big discussion. They take about 10% of the water. We have 17,000 exempt wells in Central Oregon, and we don't know how much water they take up. They're not even metered. And
Really?
Yeah, never have been.
Was there?
So that basically means you buy a piece of property, you got 5 acres out in the county.
Yeah.
You just drill and you can pull out you're only supposed to pull out 15,000 gallons a day, but they're not metered. So who knows? Nobody's doing that. People use as much water as they need. They don't.
yeah, you're not supposed to have a little
So
mini farm.
There's
there
gonna be
either.
discussions about water rights issues for exempt wells.
Right.
And I imagine that there's gonna be conversations about possible pilot programs about, hey, can we at least just find out how much water is coming out of these 100 wells? Just put meters on them and test them out.
Mayor, was OWRD present at this?
There was one commissioner there, and she made it very clear that they were not talking about rules at that summit. She answered a few questions, but she was mostly there to listen. The governor's office was there, Zavi was there, and Chandra, I don't know who that is, but I think she's the regional coordinator or one of the higher ups from the governor's office. We invited the governor who couldn't make it. It would have been great to have her there though, just to hear all the stuff. The conversation was a little centered on cities, and we didn't hear much from anybody. And I'm just gonna take credit for it. I took the reins and said, look, you guys, you Water Conservancy people, Water Watch, Phil Chang hadn't said anything. There's 4 or 5 people on this side that were really, just water people, basin people. And I said, we need to hear from you guys because we've done all the talking for the first hour. Please get into this conversation. I want to hear what you want to say. And boom, right after that, it was just fireworks in a good way.
Yeah.
Everybody was just putting their positions out there. Some of them were uncomfortable with siding with cities for very good reason, because, you know, nobody, a lot of people think that we shouldn't get water certainty, that we should be just conserving. Well, we have to have some.
We can make more golf courses out in the high desert with.
So we're trying to negotiate an off-ramp for the Deschutes County Basin. It's probably not gonna work, but we'll figure it out. And then I think, with the Water Caucus led by Helms and Owens, who were on Zoom, Representatives Helms and Owens, who are from different parties, who have collaborated on this issue for the last 4 years, are doing great.
What we want.
And, they're gonna listen to some stuff, and we're gonna have to do something in the long session. We just don't know what that is yet. So it's a conversation that really kind of just started again regionally at that water summit, and I imagine Coco's gonna be a lead in that, because as bad as we need the water and have water certainty and water rights, we can't leave our basin partners behind. We just can't do that. We all use the same water. Ag uses the same water, exempt wells,
Yep.
private landowners use the same water. We should all be in the same room to come up with a solution that's good for everybody. And, some people get that and some people don't.
And Warm Springs was there too, a representative from there? No?
I can't say that. It was one. There maybe there was.
Right side.
Didn't talk very much though.
Yeah. So the 3-hour Zoom, which I have not looked at yet.
Yeah. Skip through the first hour because that was all city stuff.
I was gonna ask, is there?
Honestly, once we got done with our presentation, it was more of a presentation and, some of us were worried, hey, we're gonna talk for a whole hour before anybody gets to say anything. That's not good. It was I think it went an hour 20, so I would,
About an hour in, that's all I needed to know. I mean, what I'll do is I'll just kind of sit there and fast forward through that first part,
I mean,
sound off.
you can just read the packet and kind of get the gist of what cities are going for.
Yeah.
It was interesting to hear what people said after that, when it became a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beginning parts were good too, just from an educational, sort of the backdrop of what's going on. I mean, Owen from GSI gave a presentation.
Yeah, his part was really good.
Yeah, more of the technical stuff, but you
Where is
can kind of understand it. So it might catch you up on what, the mayor has been working on with Coco and what's going on.
GSI is the or consultant.
The link you sent out was in an email earlier.
Yeah,
It went to all of us?
Yes, I believe so.
I had, didn't I?
Yeah, I think you sent a little blurb about it. And
Yeah,
I saw it.
yeah, we
I
can
was
make
in-
sure that it gets to everybody. when
I was in Idaho when I saw it, but I saw it.
I think it might have been, you forwarded what Keith sent out with because I think it lives on Redmond's
Right.
website.
Yeah, it was a referral to the Redmond website. That's correct.
Okay,
That part of
We'll
my
make sure
brain's
you get-
working.
thank you.
Yeah.
I may have, and I just didn't remember.
Yeah, it's just, and I'm sorry that I've talked about it for even 10 minutes. It's just a huge issue.
No, it is. a huge
Um,
issue.
We did a good job. At the end of it, I think everybody was encouraged except for maybe just Water Watch and maybe Phil Chang a little bit, but who knows? I mean, the fact is, we still got a lot of talking to do. There's horse trading to do. But cities we have a statutory, obligation to provide water for our future citizens. We're just not sure that that's there yet. And Redmond's getting picked on a lot because they had the first one in. And I even said it, I said, when you're saying Redmond's having issues, that just means Ben's gonna have issues and we're gonna have
Yeah.
issues until this
Just
gets solved.
first.
They're just first.
Mhm.
And so they're the loudest and, people are trying to get mad at Redmond. I was like, don't get mad at Redmond. They're growing.
Mhm.
We're growing. Ben's growing. We need more water rights. Now, how we get them and how can we trade and put more water in stream and do all that stuff? I'm not a hydrologist. I'm not the expert on that, but we have to have conversations with all the water users. It's not just cities. That's it.
Part of Redmond's presentation too was an interesting analysis where they looked at, the state wants urban areas to become more dense, right? So multifamily development and things like that. So they looked at water use per acre, as opposed to per capita.
Yeah.
Right? And basically it reverses sort of the assumptions where actually as you become more dense, people are using that water. So it's not just this assumption that, that irrigated lands now become a development. that means less water because you're not, just watering fields and things like that. Well, actually, there is a lot of water use that happens when you create a lot of units on a small amount of acres. And the state wants us to build housing, and that's one of the points in the letter and some of the input that we're giving to the department is, we have these land use requirements to plan for growth and accommodate new housing and,
And they want us to store more water, and we're gonna be doing that, but that costs a lot of dang money.
And there's
Ours
only,
is just, we're smaller and, ours is $10 million or whatever, $12 million, whatever it is, just for the reservoir and the infrastructure just to get the water. It's a lot of money.
Mhm.
And the only reason we're able to do it is because we've been, as a community, financially smart about it. And basically that's because of Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had a bad public works director, who knows where we'd be? It'd be tough.
Or a city councils that said, no, we don't need reserve funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
We,
Yep.
we've got the money, we should be lowering our taxes.
Yeah.
well,
So
and
anyway.
the climate change needs to come into the discussion too, because, the drought is not gonna stop. It's gonna continue, or in fact, probably get worse.
Well, I mean, that's always part of the discussion. I mean, we have to be climate resistant to that. We have to be
Yeah.
able to, because if it gets really, really bad, we have to all use even less water.
Do
That's
more
right.
with less.
That's right.
So
Yeah, we'll start looking at that lazy Z water.
anyway,
Done.
Memorial Day, did you say you were gonna be there? Cool. Yeah, I was asked to ask you up and. say hi. Okay, good. Okay. So he's gonna be speaking as well. I'll do the little welcome.
Coming in a van pool?
Miata.
And that's all I have. Let's go home.
Maserati. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.